Chapter 2, Sister Jones. Hail, hail, the gang's all here. All the way to school, the girls talked about what they thought or hoped the other girls were going to be wearing. They were not surprised to see the same bus driver that operated the bus in June because she was the same bus driver that had operated the bus on this route for the past 2 years. They probably would have been surprised not to see her. They gave her a pleasant smile as they swiped their Metro cards and took a seat way in the back of the bus. Every time the bus stopped, they scanned the faces of the new arrivals to see if any of their friends would be lucky enough to be on their bus. Although the bus was filled with lots of chattering teenagers filling each other in on the events of the past summer, the girls were quietly watching everyone and occasionally whispering to each other about this one's sneakers or that one's hair or the other one's clothes. They had gotten 4 stops away from their getting off stop and knew none of their friends would be getting on their bus when the bus pulled to the curb and 6 people began entering the bus. Every new arrival received a quick glance from the many young females' eyes that, in a swift head to toe survey, could analyze every detail of one's attire and either dismiss you as fashionably incompetent or worthy of a second glance. The next stop the bus made would prove to be a life-changing one for the girls. This stop was causing a riptide effect that was traveling through the bus like a current of electricity. The fourth person to enter the bus was perhaps the most gorgeous guy the Jones girls had ever seen. Every young girl could feel the tension in the air as this 6'1" dream with sexy brown eyes, skin the color of dark chocolate, and smooth as a baby's bottom, stepped up into the bus. His hair hung past his shoulders in perfectly maintained dreads, and his lips so full and tempting it made you want to suck on them. Even though he was dressed in a tee at least one size too big, you could see he was muscular and well-toned. His pants, though the latest style, was not hanging below his behind like so many of the young men chose to wear them these days. His sneakers were snow white, the latest style in the Jordan line, and he even had a beautiful eye-catching tattoo of fire on his left upper arm. It was quite obvious he had every girl's attention as he entered the bus, and his slow, steady stroll to the rear of the bus with his eyes straight ahead showed he was used to getting attention everywhere he went. As the bus pulled away from the curb, it became plain that several groups of girls were competing for the attention of the sexy dreadlocked stranger. Giggles and loud conversation followed by loud outbursts of protest and exclamations of joy went unnoticed, much to the annoyance of the many young admirers. Some were not so coy and even walked up to the tall, handsome heartthrob and asked him what cologne he was wearing in hopes of striking up a conversation, only to be rewarded by short, curt answers, a smile that revealed dazzlingly white, straight, even teeth, and dismissal as he turned to look in a different direction. It was quite clear many of the girls did not care what others thought and would stop at nothing to get the young man's attention. But the Jones twins were definitely not among the desperate bunch of silly girls. The twins considered themselves too good to act so desperate for some boy. even though he was the finest boy any one of them had ever seen. They still refused to act like a couple of freshmen. No way. If ever they were going to meet this delicious hunk, he was going to come up to them, and not because they were making a spectacle of themselves either. He would come to them just because he wanted to meet them, plain and simple. They were so disgusted by the juvenile display being put on by the other girl on the bus, they refused to even look at the new boy. They opened their books. Reading was a hobby that the girls loved fiercely. It was a good thing they had their head buried in their books, because it gave the young man an opportunity to openly stare unnoticed at two of the prettiest girls he had ever seen. Moving to New York from North Carolina was bad enough for Rife, leaving all of his friends behind and all. But he was doubly disappointed when he saw the New York girls. Man, what a letdown. They were okay, but they lacked that sensual, sexy Southern fire that he was so used to. Northern girls seemed so shallow, so cold, and so transparent. But for the first time since moving to the Big Apple, he had been rendered speechless. Not only was he knocked breathless by a beauty he had never seen in New York and had rarely even seen back home, but he was seeing it double. What would be the odds? How could his luck be this good that he would pick this bus on this day to see this double vision of beauty? If the girls had looked up at that moment, they would have been surprised to see Rife Jackson smiling broadly at them with a look of wonder, surprise, adoration, and pure delight in his brown eyes. Rife quickly composed himself and turned away before they saw him, and said a silent prayer. These lovely creatures were in his new school. His heart leaped with joy when they rose simultaneously when the bus stopped at his stop. He walked out first, held the door for all the young girls getting off, and was rewarded by winks, smiles, and whispered thank yous. He said, "You're welcome" to everyone, but his eyes were glued to the doorway, waiting for the twin beauties to disembark. The twins were the last two people to get off the bus. Seeing him holding the doors, they seemed at first hesitant. Before lifting their chins and looking straight ahead, they slowly walked down the stairs. Mumbling a soft thank you, they walked past and followed the crowd in the direction of Rife's new school. Yes, he thought as he let the bus door go and followed behind a group of kids heading to the House of Education. Mercy was all that kept racing through his mind as he watched the tight-jeaned, full round bottoms moving tantalizingly in front of him. He had to remind himself that he was a gentleman and forced his eyes to look elsewhere. He made up his mind then and there he was going to do everything in his power to meet these tempting, tight-jeaned twins. Vet felt like she was on the verge of a nervous breakdown. Her hands were shaking, her heart was fluttering, and she couldn't seem to find her voice. Why, oh why did that boy have to hold the door for everyone, and now he was walking right behind her and Net? From the moment he walked onto the bus, she was mesmerized. And it was crystal clear Net felt the same way, due to the fact that she was punching a hole in her arm. "Stop!" hissed Vet fiercely. "What's wrong with you?" whispered Net angrily when she sensed an attitude in her sister. They always tapped each other when a cute boy was near, but this boy was different. This boy wasn't cute. He was fine. Vet had never been affected by a boy this way before, and it was disturbing, scary, and nice all at the same time.